It's me, Ari Dotset. Just call me Rashid. I'm an anthropologist and sociologist. The following story may be familiar to you because it's been used online often as a variable. It goes as follows. You have a husband, and he bought ham, and he asked his wife to prepare the ham for dinner. So the husband comes home, expects a big ham dish over there, but then to his surprise, the wife is still cooking because she came late from work. He didn't mind. But then as the wife is preparing the ham, she cuts off the edges of the ham and throws them away. Husband got shocked thinking, what? That ham was expensive. You cut off good piece of ham and threw them in the trash can. The wife was thinking, what's wrong with you? I'm just preparing the ham. The incident confused the husband. So the husband talked about it with his mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law also thought there was something wrong with cutting the edges of the ham. Then the husband spoke to the grandmother-in-law, and the grandmother-in-law said, well, when she was younger, the pots they had to prepare the ham in were small, so they had to cut off edges of the ham to fit the pots. So then the husband understood, oh, so my wife got this from her grandmother through her mom, that she had to cut off the edge of the ham. So the wife did not mean any harm. But the thing is, she wasted good portion of ham by operating in this dysfunction. Why is it dysfunction? Because for her grandmother, it was the norm to cut off the edge of the ham because A, their pots were small. But the granddaughter now, she lives in a modern kitchen with big ovens, big pots. So there's no need to cut off any edge of any ham. So now the same behavior for the granddaughter is a dysfunction because now she's wasting good piece of meat, which is quite expensive also. For the grandma, just the way they did it. That portion of the ham went to waste. They didn't mind because that's what they knew. So even for the grandma, even though it was practical to cut off the edge of the ham, it was still a waste, but it was practical because the pots were small. But for the granddaughter, it's a full dysfunction. Now, why am I repeating this story? Because you need to understand the following. As a human being, you have been shaped by your environment. Your native language didn't come from you. Your first name didn't come from you. Many of your mannerisms were shaped into you by the environment. So you have been the product of your environment, simple as that. Now, as an individual human being, of course, you have the ability to shape your future to some extent by making decisions yourself. You can do that. But even that is done based on how you were shaped by those around you. Even as an adult, you're still shaped by those around you. So we're not little gods, little g's, that we can just change ourselves randomly by will out of thin air. No. If you want better, you have to be around people who are better. So we are interdependent of one another as human beings. Understanding this will also reveal unto you that the way you were shaped and raised also contained certain dysfunctions. Because your parents and grandparents and great grandparents and also other adults around you, they also had dysfunction. Some of them were plain neglectful and wrong. I hope that's not in your case, but let's be realistic. So, another thing you need to understand is that your parents are not telling you everything, neither your grandparents. Look, let's say your grandma used to break the hearts of a lot of young men in her time by sleeping around before she met your grandfather. And your grandfather was one of those things that kept waiting for her. This is not an honorable past. And her behavior was far from honorable. And if any young woman act like that today, a lot of women, including some feminists, would think, okay, this goes a bit too far. Have some appreciation for the men in your life. So will your grandmother tell you she used to take advantage of men, she was narcissistic towards men? No, she will not. If she tells you that, your whole view of your grandmother would change. You would think, so this woman married my grandfather, not because she really loved my grandfather, but because he was the only option I was willing to deal with her. So now you realize that your grandfather lacked self-worth, that he put up with a woman like that. So now you understand that one of your parents, whether it's your mom or dad, grew up in a dysfunctional household. So now the way you look at your dad or mom, depending whose whose grandparents from which side is, now you look different at one of your parents too. And now you look at yourself and think, whoa, can it be I also have some of those dysfunction in me? So your grandma and grandpa keeping that part of themselves hidden from you just to have a good reputation and good esteem with you. You grow up with a version of your grandparents that's not real. I don't think that your grandparents could not have become honorable later on in life, but they didn't start off honorable. And guess what? Often people start off in dysfunction, and dysfunction was long term, they rarely fully change for the better. So your grandparents didn't tell you everything. Now, maybe it's not that one of your grandparents was sexually dishonorable. Maybe one of your grandparents used to, dislike people a lot. And because of that, he developed health issues because he kept having this unrest with other people. So you know your grandpa is often having health issues. People say, oh, just because it's old age. But then you see other people the same age as your grandpa and they're perfectly fine. So the health issues that your grandpa have today is a result of him hating on other people a lot when he was younger. Will he admit to you that? Because then you will not. Because then you would look very different as your grandpa. You may think, I don't want to deal with this man. Your own mom or dad may not tell you the truth about their father because it's an embarrassing thing. Look, I don't know what dysfunction was going on with you in your family line, but be assured there was dysfunction. Maybe from a family where dysfunction was addressed. That's good, but it was still dysfunction. You have the obligation towards yourself and other people around you that you encounter in life to be safe and trustworthy. You have the obligation to be safe and trustworthy towards other people. Absolutely. That means you ought to reflect on yourself, how you were shaped and raised. Look at those who shaped and raised you, not just your parents and grandparents or great grandparents, also the environment around you. And you ought to admit when you have been deformed. If you admit that you've been deformed in some area, there's something wrong with that. Don't be ashamed, don't be embarrassed. It's not you. But it is on you now to improve. And this is the problem with a lot of people out there. They simply will not face the fact that they've been deformed. They don't want to look at their parents, grandparents, or the other adults around them and realize, hold on a minute, these are just human beings like me too, with dysfunctions, with defects. They have this archaic attitude of looking up to those who are older than them. This showing respect to your elders uh, propaganda, they're holding on to it. Now, let me tell you, respect by itself is not natural. Respect is based on sexual fright. It comes from ancient Greece when older men would violate younger men for being too handsome or outshining them. That's where the whole idea of respect comes from. So respect, everywhere it is, it has some element of fear in it. You have to be afraid of not giving in to someone else's expectation or else. So respect is fear-based. So we don't do respect. We do basic human decency and we do honor. Basic human decency you have towards all human beings because they're human beings just like you. And honor is you giving importance to someone. You only do that if someone is honorable. So they're safe and uh, beneficial to give this importance to. If someone is neither safe nor beneficial to give importance to, you don't give them importance over yourself. Simple as that. So you should only give honor to those who are honorable. Respect is simply give in to someone else's expectation because they want to. Often under the threat, if you don't do it, something bad may happen to you, or some sexual follow. So respecting your elders by itself is a satanic attitude. First of all, why does someone deserve credit just for being alive more than you? You also have reprobates who are quote unquote older than you, who have lived longer than you. So should they get a basic recognition too because they've lived longer than you and they haven't made anything through the community? Listen, unlearn this, respect your elders. Just because someone has lived longer than you on the earth does not entitle them to get special treatment from you. I don't care whether it's one of your parents, or older siblings, or your employer at work, or a random old individual in the streets. Just because they've lived longer than you does not entitle them to a special treatment. It especially does not entitle them to get away with mistreating you or get away with ignoring you and dismissing you. Look, if someone who has lived longer than you, for example, a parent or grandparent, or just someone in the neighborhood who has been beneficial and honorable towards the community, then you praise them for being consistent long term. That's what you do. But you're not going to give them recognition just because they're so-called older than you, and because they're older than you, somehow they have a right to have a leverage over you. Child molesters also tend to be older than their victims. But does that mean now that the victims owe them something because they're older? No. Listen, if you had a mom or dad who was fully neglectful and horrible towards you, traumatized you throughout your childhood, are you going to give them honor? No. Yeah, Rashi is written in the Bible, honor your mother and father, so you have a long life in the earth. Okay, but that only applies to parents who are honorable and safe, who honor their heavenly father. It doesn't account for reprobate parents. Now look, whether your parents are reprobate or they're not evil people, but they're just dysfunctional here and there, you don't just give credit to someone just because they've lived longer than you. It doesn't add up. Look, a lot of people are holding themselves back. They keep themselves in danger. They keep themselves backwards because they keep honoring people who shouldn't get any honor. For example, if one of your aunties, every time she talks to you, she's suggesting that something's wrong with you, even when there's no evidence nor proof that there's anything wrong with you. I'm sorry, at some point you should think, okay, well, why is this woman always suggesting there's going wrong? For example, let's say you look a bit tired one day. She can also say, hey, Kevin, you look a bit tired now. Did you sleep well? Just sleep well, okay? That's going to be better. She can also talk like that. But instead she says, well, you look tired again, you're getting a bit older, or are you doing drugs, whatever? Either she keeps hanging on to the bad thing that goes on, or she keeps suggesting some blame onto you. And every time she finishes talking to you, you feel horrible, or you feel like you need to recover. At some point, you realize, you know what? This individual is not safe for me to be involved with. She's triggering bad emotions into me, which are harmful to my physical and mental health. So you know what? She's a danger to my long-term well-being by her toxic attitude. Okay, so that means I avoid contact with her. Simple as that. In some cultures, they will attack saying, oh, that's your auntie, she's older than you. Yeah, she's toxic, but you have to take it. Hold on, what? You have to take people who live longer than you to damage you just because they've lived longer than you? If you don't do that, community gets upset with you? What the heck? I even read a story of this guy when he was an 8-year-old boy that one of his aunties or other female relatives tried to hit him and he was running away. And the relative was saying, no, she's older than you, should stay there and take it. And he was thinking, what? But anyway, what I'm saying is that too many people do not examine their parents, grandparents, and the elders, so-called elders around them. Listen, an elder is a title, it's a function in the community. An elder is a male that's in a leadership position in the community. So not everyone that's older than you is an elder. Okay? We tend to call everyone older than us elders. Okay? But anyway, even if someone is an elder in the community, are they honorable? If not, you should not follow them. Simple as that. Too many people, I guarantee you, they do not examine their parents, nor grandparents, nor other adults they grew up with. They do not examine them. Listen, those that shaped you, those that raised you, they are the reason why you are the way you are today. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be a victim and complain. No, if they shaped you in a certain direction that is not beneficial for you in the long run, you as an adult you have to reflect on it and decide I want to be better. I don't care how much to blame your environment is. Let them keep their blame. You can be better. But a lot of adults prefer to blame their parents or blame anyone else for them not improving. Look, that's your parents and the people around you. They don't do a good job with you. That's on them. But for you to allow their dysfunction and neglect to continue to harm you, well, that is on you. Once you notice that the environment around you is not that honorable, or the environment around you is dysfunctional and people are not willing to admit it, you have to realize, okay, if they're not willing to admit dysfunction or do anything about it, it means they are toxic. If they're toxic, I need to take my responsibility for myself and for the sake of those I'll affect with my presence to be a better and safer human being. So that is why self-reflection and reflecting those around you is quite important. Do you know there are other churches who are against this? They expect you to just take whatever generational curse and go with it. Look, in the background of this video, you see an image from this Japanese animation, Dragon Ball Z. You see Goku, the protagonist of the series. You see his son Goku on top of him, and then you see Goten, his second son. Now, why that shows its image? Because, look, in Dragon Ball Z, and also Dragon Ball GT also followed, what you find out is that Goku, the protagonist, was quite naive and therefore a bit reckless. He was firm on protecting the Earth and the human species. However, he was not realistic often. You have this prince called Vegeta, who's from the same alien species as Goku, and Vegeta is calling Goku out saying, Goku, why are you so blind towards the neglected people? Shouldn't they at least care a bit more about their home, the Earth? It's fine you want to protect them, but shouldn't they even want to cooperate with you? Vegeta's a bit more realistic. It's often Vegeta that keeps Goku in check from going too reckless. Even though they appear to be rivals, they're actually on the same team. Now, Gohan, who grew up, because Gohan's mom is a human being, Gohan grew up amongst other human beings. He's more familiar with the human species, and Gohan decides, you know what? I do have powers just like my dad, but my dad was quite reckless, and you know what? He got himself in too much trouble. I'm not going to be that naive. I know how the people around me can be. So you know what? Let me just appear to have a common life amongst them. Let me become a scholar. Let me just have a job while I train my powers in my free time. I'm still using my powers, but I'm not going to show it too much to the people because the people may turn on me. In this case, Gohan reflected on his father, like, you know what? Dad could have done things better. And you know what? I'm not going to be bitter against how my dad is, because just I can't change how he is. He's not evil, but I can't change his functions. You know what? Let me be better. Well, that attitude of this fictional character Gohan in Dragon Ball Z, that's how everyone should be. You reflect on those around you, especially those that raised you or shaped you, and you decide, you know what? If things need to improve, I want to improve. I want to be better. That's taking ownership and taking responsibility. It's one thing if others actually harmed you by giving you either wrong advice or by just plainly neglecting you, whatever. But even then, it's them that did. It says a lot about them. Stop carrying their misfortune. Decide you want to be better. Well, that's it for now. Keep on with Christ and be at peace.